When my daughter Emma told me I didn't need to worry about Christmas this year, I smiled and said, "Okay, honey." 3 days later, I received a message in the family group chat. "Guys, let's do something simpler this year. Everyone takes care of themselves." That's when I realized that love has an expiration date. For 30 years, I was the heart of the Rodriguez family Christmas. I planned, I cooked, I decorated, I paid for everything. The 15-pound turkey seasoned with herbs I grew myself. The French toast my mother taught me how to make. The hand-wrapped presents with ribbons that I insisted on choosing one by one. All this while working 2 jobs as a store manager and still paying for Emma's college and my son Jake's apartment bills. But apparently, after 3 decades of being the family Santa Claus, I had become a burden. "Dad, you work too hard. Relax this year," Emma had said. What a thoughtful daughter, right? Except I've known my daughter since she learned to lie at age 5. That forced smile and the way she avoided my gaze told me everything I needed to know. The truth is that Emma, now a successful lawyer married to David, a plastic surgeon, simply decided that my Christmas style no longer matched their social standards. They wanted something more sophisticated, more elegant. In other words, they didn't want old Carlos making Latin food for their posh friends. You won't believe what I discovered later, and even less how I made them understand that family isn't disposable. I could have accepted that lie and spent Christmas alone, watching movies and eating frozen pizza. I could have swallowed yet another humiliation, like I've swallowed so many others over the years. But then my neighbor Tom told me something that made my blood boil. "Carlos, I saw your daughter at the premium market buying ingredients for a huge party. Salmon, champagne, some expensive things I can't even pronounce. It must be for some special event, right?" Tom said this innocently, unaware that he had just dropped a bombshell on me. Huge party, expensive ingredients. I grabbed my phone and went straight to Emma's Instagram. And there it was. Preparing our first Christmas dinner at home. Can't wait to welcome our dear friends and show off our culinary skills. Posted 3 hours after our conversation about making something simple. Our culinary skills. Emma, who has burned water her whole life. Emma, who once tried to make an egg and managed to break 2 pans. David, who considers instant noodles haute cuisine when I'm not around to cook. They were going to cook for 12 people at a party I was forbidden from attending. I delved deeper into the investigation. David's LinkedIn profile reads, "Excited to host our first Christmas dinner at home with fellow professionals from the medical and legal community." Medical and legal community. Of course. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a lawyer. I was just the guy who raised these 2, paid for their education, and supported the family while they were studying. That night I understood the game. They didn't want to exclude me from Christmas. They wanted to exclude me from their lives. I sat at my kitchen table and opened all the drawers where I keep important documents. It's time to settle accounts, not grocery or electricity bills. Life's accounts. Emma's college tuition, $180,000. I refinanced my house twice to pay for it. Emma's wedding, $45,000. I took out a loan and worked weekends for 2 years to give her the wedding of her dreams. Down payment on their apartment, $60,000 from my retirement savings. "Just one loan, Dad, we'll pay it off quickly." Jake, my youngest, wasn't far behind. Engineering college, $160,000. Exchange program in Germany, $25,000. The car he needed for work, $35,000. Always with the promise that they would pay me back when they got settled. 30 years of my life summed up in numbers on a sheet of paper. $505,000 invested in 2 people who now found me unfit to sit at their Christmas table. $500,000 to raise 2 adults who couldn't even have the decency to tell me the truth to my face. But it wasn't just about money. It was about the Sundays I spent cooking for them to bring their friends over. The birthday parties I organized. The graduations I photographed, crying with pride. The times they called me in the middle of the night when they were sick, and I jumped out of bed to take care of them. Now they had decided I was an embarrassment, that my Latin food wasn't sophisticated enough, that my stories from my youth didn't interest their doctor and lawyer friends, that I simply wasn't good enough to be a part of the life I helped build. That night I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, planning. The next day, I decided to test it. I called Emma pretending I didn't know anything. "Hi, dear, I was just thinking, even if you're making something simple, could I at least bring dessert?" Or help with something? I asked in the most innocent voice in the world. Oh, Dad, we really did cancel. It'll just be me and David, nice and quiet. Maybe we won't even cook. We'll just order a pizza. The lie came out of her mouth so naturally that I was impressed. My own daughter had become an expert at deceiving me. Okay, honey. And Jake? Is he going to do something simple too? Oh, Jake's going on a trip. I think he's going to his new girlfriend's house. Another lie. I had seen Jake posting stories of a Christmas party, clearly in preparation, in the apartment that I helped furnish. I hung up the phone and a rage I hadn't felt in years took hold of me. It wasn't just exclusion. It was coordination. The two of them had teamed up to exclude me from the celebrations. They had created an elaborate plan of lies to keep me out of their lives. I picked up my phone and went to check social media again. Emma had posted a photo of her and David at a cooking class. "Preparing surprises for special guests," was the caption. 12 likes from people I recognized. Their work colleagues, some college friends, people I knew who had always been polite to me. That's when it all clicked. They weren't doing something simple. They were throwing a big, elaborate party. They were just doing it without me. I was the father who didn't deserve to be at the table. The man who raised those two, who sacrificed everything for them, but who was now just a source of shame. It wasn't anger that took hold of me at that moment. It was something colder, more calculated. 30 years raising this family have taught me a few things about Emma and Jake, and one of them is that they've always had a serious problem. They never learned to fend for themselves. Emma may be a brilliant lawyer in court, but in the kitchen she's a disaster. Once she tried to make pasta and managed to burn the water. Jake is even worse. The boy has spent 26 years of his life thinking that chicken comes ready-made from the supermarket. But I was always there. I always solved problems. I always cooked. That's why they never bothered to learn. Dad always found a way. I picked up the phone and called my sister Rosa, who lives in Phoenix. "Rosa, do you still have those invitations to spend Christmas at your house?" I asked. "Of course, Carlos. It would be wonderful to have you here. Why the change of plans?" "Because I finally learned that family is who wants you around, not who tolerates you when they need something." Rosa laughed. "The boys were up to something, weren't they?" "You can't imagine. But don't worry. They're going to learn a lesson they'll never forget." I turned it off and started phase 2 of the plan. I opened my laptop and canceled all the automatic deliveries I had made for them. The cleaning service for Emma's apartment that I had been paying for 3 years. The subscription to the gourmet market that arrived at Jake's house every week. The family Netflix subscription, Spotify, even Emma's car insurance that was in my name. Little things. Things they didn't even remember I paid for, but that they would miss very quickly. Then I called my cousin Miguel, who owns a catering company. "Miguel, are you available to cook a Christmas meal for 12 people on the 24th? "Sure, cousin. But don't you always cook?" "This year will be different." 3 days before Christmas, Emma called me. Her voice had a tension I wasn't used to hearing. "Dad, Netflix is having problems here, and it looks like the cleaning service didn't come this week. Do you know anything about it?" "That's strange, daughter. Perhaps it's a technical problem. And there's one more thing." She hesitated. "You really don't want to come for Christmas? Because I was thinking maybe we could—" "Emma," I cut her off. "You told me you were going to do something simple. Just you and David. Why would I interrupt your intimate moment?" Silence on the other end of the line. She had forgotten the lie she had told. "Yeah, that's true. Sorry, Dad. I've been a bit confused about work lately." "That's fine, dear. Enjoy your Christmas quietly." The next day, it was Jake's turn to call. "Dad, what happened to the market? They said my account was cancelled." "What's the story, son?" "The one you pay for every month, the Fresh Market subscription." "Ah, that one. I did cancel it. I thought it was about time you learned how to do your own shopping, don't you think?" "But Dad, I don't even know where to begin." "Jake, you're 26 years old. I think it's time you learned something. Don't you agree?" He hung up without answering. I smiled. The trap was working perfectly. On the 23rd, the day before last, my phone rang 11 times. Emma, Jake, Emma again. An unknown number that was certainly David. I didn't answer any of the calls. I was busy packing my bags for Phoenix. That night I finally decided to listen to the messages. They were gems. "Dad, call me urgently." "Carlos, this is David. We need to talk." "Dad, please, it's important." Important. Now it was important. On the morning of the 24th Christmas Eve, I was finishing packing my suitcase, when someone started banging on my door. It wasn't a knock. It was a real pounding. I opened the door and found Emma with a look of despair on her face that I hadn't seen since she was little, and broke something important. "Dad, thank God you're home. We have an emergency." "What kind of emergency, Emma?" "The catering company we hired canceled at the last minute, and the guests are arriving at 6 in the afternoon." She was almost crying. "And I don't know how to cook for 12 people." I feigned surprise. "But weren't you going to do something simple? Just you and David?" Her face fell. "Dad, I lied. We are having dinner, yes, but it's complicated." "Complicated like?" "It's because they're people from our work. Doctors, lawyers, important people. And we wanted to impress them." There it was, the stark truth. I wasn't good enough to impress important people. "I understand. And what exactly do you want me to do?" "Can you cook for us? Please, I'll pay you." She was going to pay me. To cook at the house I paid the entrance fee for. To serve people she thought were more important than me. To be the employee at the event I was forbidden from attending. "Emma, darling, I would love to help, but I can't." "What do you mean it can't be done?" "Because I already have a commitment. I have a trip planned." "What trip?" "I'm going to spend Christmas with Aunt Rosa in Phoenix. By the way, my flight leaves in 2 hours. Her panicked expression was something worthy of a photograph. "Dad, you can't do this to me." "What to do, Emma? Have a life of your own?" At that moment, Jake appeared behind her, clearly panicked as well. "Dad, for God's sake, we need your help." It was interesting how I suddenly became necessary. "Why don't you ask some of those doctor and lawyer friends to help in the kitchen?" I asked, crossing my arms. "I'm sure they're very talented people." Emma and Jake exchanged a look I knew well. It was the look of someone caught in a lie with no way out. "Dad, stop it." Emma tried to sound authoritative, but her voice came out shaky. "You know, we don't know how to cook." "I know. The question is, why should I care?" Jake stepped forward. "Because you're our father." "Oh, so now I'm your father. How interesting. Because last week, when you were planning a party for 12 people, I apparently wasn't considered father enough to be invited." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma tried to speak, but I raised my hand. "Let me tell you what I found out, daughter. You didn't cancel anything. You planned an elaborate, expensive, sophisticated Christmas to impress your friends, but in the middle of all that planning, you realized that I didn't fit the image you wanted to project." Tears began to stream down Emma's face. "Dad, that's not it." "What, Emma? You think I'm stupid? That I can't see when my own daughter is lying to my face?" Jake tried to intervene. "We just wanted to do something different this year." "Different how? Without the father who paid for your college? Without the man who refinanced the house to pay for your sister's wedding? Without the guy who supported this family alone for 30 years? My voice came out louder than I intended, but 3 decades of resentment were all coming out at once. "Did you want something sophisticated? Something elegant? Something without old Carlos and his Latin food that wouldn't impress any doctor?" Emma was crying now. "It wasn't about that, Dad." "Yes, that's what it was about, Emma. And you know what? You're right. I really don't fit into your world. I'm going to make you both an offer," he said, looking each of them in the eye. "I can cancel my trip. I can come here, cook for 12 people, serve your fancy guests, wash the dishes afterward, and go home as a good employee." They smiled with relief. "But there's a condition." The smile died. "I want you to tell me, looking me in the eyes, why I wasn't invited to this dinner. I want the truth, all of it." Emma and Jake exchanged another glance, the kind of look twins give each other when they know they're screwed. "Dad, it's complicated," Emma began. "Then don't complicate things." Jake sighed. "We thought that it would be better if it was just people our age. You know, so we'd have things in common." "Common interests," I repeated. "Like what?" "Work, career, that sort of thing." "I understand. And I, who worked for 40 years to provide the conditions for you to study and have a career, have nothing to contribute to these conversations." "That's not it, Dad." "So what is it, Emma?" She took a deep breath. "It's just that David's friends are very sophisticated. They studied at expensive universities, traveled to Europe, speak other languages. And what am I? An ignorant person? You don't understand. It's about social class. These guys are on another level." There it was. The complete confession. I didn't have enough social class for my daughter's friends. "Level." I repeated the word slowly. "Your father, who raised you alone after your mother died, doesn't have a high enough level. Emma realized what she had said. Dad, I didn't mean that. Yes, I wanted to. And you know what? You're right. I really don't have the same level as you guys. I grabbed my suitcase and walked towards the door. I have much more. I left home and drove to the airport with a lighter heart than it had been in years. For the first time in decades, I was going to spend a holiday without worrying about anyone but myself. The flight to Phoenix was smooth. Rosa picked me up at the airport with a huge smile and a tight hug. It took you a while to come visit me, brother. Yeah, I was busy creating people who don't deserve my time. Tell me everything. I want to know every detail of this war. During dinner at Rosa's house, I told her and her husband Antonio the whole story. When I finished, Rosa shook her head. Those boys have lost all sense of proportion, Carlos. But you did the right thing. Do you think so? Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh. Hard? My brother, you supported those two for 30 years. You paid for college, their wedding, their apartment, and on top of that they treat you like an employee? No, you're just not being harsh enough. Antonio, who had known Emma since she was little, seemed shocked. Emma was always so sweet. I can't believe she would do this. Power changed her, Antonio. When you have a degree on the wall and money in the bank, sometimes you forget where you came from. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Emma had called 17 times. Jake, 9. Even David had called 3 times. I didn't answer any of them. That night, I decided to listen to some voicemails. They were hilarious. First message, Emma. Dad, for God's sake, call me. The guests are arriving in 4 hours. Fifth message, Jake. Dad, we tried to make the turkey and I think we poisoned everyone. Help. 10th message, David. Mr. Carlos, this is David. Please, we need to talk. The last message was from Emma, 3 hours later. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Dad, it was a disaster. The guests left. We served frozen pizza at a table set for 12 people. It was humiliating. Please call me. I hung up the phone and smiled. The lesson had begun. The next day, Christmas Day, my phone exploded with messages. But they weren't just from Emma and Jake. Messages started coming in from people I never imagined knew what was going on. Mr. Rodriguez, this is Patricia, Emma's friend from the office. I wanted you to know that it was very sad to see your daughter crying at dinner yesterday. I think there's been some misunderstanding. Carlos, this is Dr. Martinez, David's colleague. Man, what a strange situation yesterday. Your daughter seemed desperate. Are you both all right? Uncle Carlos, this is Jessica, Emma's cousin. What happened? She's been posting some strange things on Instagram. I went to check Emma's Instagram. It was a disaster. She had posted a picture of the table set, beautiful and elegant, with the caption, "When everything you planned falls apart in one night." 140 comments from people asking what had happened. David had posted something worse. Some family situations are more complicated than they appear. The doctor had publicly thrown the family under the bus. Jake, at least, had the decency to stay quiet on social media. But I received a message from him that made me laugh. Dad, I tried to make those beans you make, and I blew up the pressure cooker in the kitchen. Literally. There are beans stuck to the ceiling. I showed the note to Rosa, who almost spat out her coffee from laughing so hard. Oh, those kids. They never learned anything, did they? It's just that I've always done everything for them, Rosa. I've never let them go through hardship. And now they are discovering what real hardship is. In the afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Patricia, a friend of Emma's. Mr. Rodriguez, I hope you don't mind that I got your number. It's just, well, yesterday was very embarrassing. Embarrassing how, Patricia? Your daughter told us you two had a fight, but she didn't explain exactly what happened. But, well, serving frozen pizza on porcelain plates after promising a gourmet dinner was strange. Interesting. Emma hadn't even told the truth to the guests. And what exactly did she say about our fight? You were going through a difficult time and canceled at the last minute. But Mr. Rodriguez, if I may say so, your daughter seemed more guilty than angry. Guilty. How interesting. 2 weeks after Christmas, I was back home when I received an unexpected visit. It was David, alone, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Mr. Carlos, can we talk? I let him in, but I didn't offer him coffee. He sat on the edge of the sofa, nervous. I want to apologize for what happened. Why apologize, David? For Christmas. For everything. You'll have to be more specific. He sighed. Emma told me the whole truth. How you really felt about you being at the supper. How they lied about canceling everything. They? Well, mostly Emma. But I agreed. And why did you agree to exclude me, David? He looked at his hands. Because we're selfish idiots who've forgotten where we came from. It wasn't the answer I expected. It was more honest than anything Emma or Jake had said. Continue. You're right about everything. We became obsessed with impressing these people, and forgot that you're the only person who truly cares about us. And what made you realize that? The 2 weeks that have passed since Christmas. He laughed, but there was no joy in his laughter. Emma had a nervous breakdown at work. Jake is surviving on takeout because he can't even cook instant noodles. And me. I realized I married into a family, but I never bothered to get to know the man who raised the woman I love. It was the most honest conversation David and I had ever had in 5 years of marriage with my daughter. And where is Emma now? In therapy. She realized she has some serious issues with gratitude and humility. And Jake? Trying to learn to cook from YouTube. Yesterday he called me crying because he burned the boiling water while making eggs. I couldn't hold back my laughter. David, I appreciate you coming here. But where are you all hoping to get with this? We want to fix things, but we know it won't be easy. David, let me ask you a question, I said, leaning forward. If I forgive the 3 of you, and we become a family again, what guarantees that this won't happen again? Nothing, he replied immediately. We hurt you. Trust is built slowly. At least you're honest. I learned that lying only complicates things further. And what is Emma willing to do to regain my trust? Anything. She's devastated, Mr. Carlos. She hasn't been able to sleep properly since Christmas. She just keeps looking at old family photos and crying. And Jake? Jake is discovering what it's really like to be an adult. And it's not easy. I looked at David for a long moment. He didn't look away. He was being sincere. Okay, I'll do a test with you. What kind of test? Next Sunday, the 3 of you are coming to have lunch here. But there's one condition. You're going to cook. His face turned white. We cook? That's right. You're going to plan the menu, buy the ingredients, and prepare a complete meal. By yourselves, without my help. But Mr. Carlos, we don't know. Then they'll learn. That's how family works, David. We manage, we help each other, but we also make an effort. What if it's a disaster? Then you'll understand what I've always done for this family. He nodded slowly. I understand. What if we manage to have a decent meal? Then we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. But it will be on my terms, David. I'm not going to be the father who pays for everything and accepts anything in return anymore. Fair. And there's one more thing. Try. Emma is going to have to apologize to me. Really. Not these half-hearted apologies she's given so far. David nodded. She knows, and she's prepared. We'll see. Sunday arrived, and I was curious to see what kind of chaos my children would create in my kitchen. At 11 in the morning, the 3 of them arrived laden with grocery bags and with a nervous look on their faces that I hadn't seen in years. Emma came straight to me. Dad, first of all, I need to apologize. I'm listening. I behaved like a horrible person. Selfish, ungrateful, and prejudiced. The words came out slowly, as if she had rehearsed them, but with sincerity. You sacrificed 30 years of your life for me and Jake, and at the first opportunity I had to reciprocate that love, I cut you out of my life. Continue. I was so worried about impressing people I don't even truly care about that I forgot about the only person who ever cared about me. And worse, I used your social class, your education, your background, as an excuse to humiliate you. Tears began to stream down her face. Dad, I am exactly who you taught me not to be, and I hate the person I've become. Jake approached as well. Dad, I was a coward. I knew it was wrong to exclude you, but I went along with Emma because it was easier than confronting her. And what did you learn from that? That family isn't optional, Emma replied. That respect doesn't depend on a diploma or a bank account, and that humility is something we have to practice every day. And Jake? That I'm a useless adult who can't even boil an egg without burning the house down. He laughed at himself. But I'm learning, Dad. Slowly, but I am. Okay, now show me what you brought to cook. What they pulled out of the bags surprised me. Ingredients to make lasagna, salad, and even dessert. Nothing too elaborate, but quality products. Who chose the menu? We decided together, David replied. We researched simple recipes that would still taste good. For the next 3 hours, I watched my children try to cook. It was hilarious and touching at the same time. Emma burned the first onion she tried to sauté. Jake confused salt with sugar and had to start the sauce from scratch. David discovered that cutting tomatoes is harder than plastic surgery, but they didn't give up. They helped each other, laughed at their own mistakes, and kept trying. At 3 in the afternoon, we finally sat down to eat. The lasagna was a little salty, the salad a bit wilted, and the dessert didn't come out of shape properly. But it was edible, and more importantly, it was made with love. "How are you, Dad?" Emma asked nervously. "It's not perfect, but it's honest." Honest? It was done with effort, with humility, with a desire to please. "That's worth more than any technical perfection," Jake smiled. "We kind of understood why you always enjoyed cooking for the family. And why? Because it's a way of showing love." "Exactly." Emma looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen in years. "Dad, can we start over, from scratch?" "It depends. Did you really understand the lesson?" "What lesson?" "Family is about caring for each other, not about using each other." "We understand," David replied, "and we want to prove it. First, we want to pay you back. Not all at once, but little by little." "David, I don't need the money, but we need to pay, for ourselves, to know that we are capable of honoring our debts." Emma nodded. "And secondly, we want you to be a real part of our lives. Not as an employee, not as a sponsor, as a father." "Does that mean that the next time you guys have a party, I'll be there?" "That means that the next time we have a party, you'll be helping to organize it," Jake corrected. "Because we realized that family is better when it's together." "And what about David's fancy friends?" David laughed. "David's posh friends can get used to Latin food and real-life stories, and if they don't like it, they're not really friends." I looked at the 3 of them, at the table with imperfect food, but made with love, at the hopeful faces of my family. "Okay, but there are new rules." "What rules?" Emma asked. "First, no more lies between us. If you don't want me somewhere, be honest. It hurts less than discovering the lie later." "Promised." "Secondly, I'm no longer going to automatically pay for everything. You're adults. Take responsibility for yourselves." "Fair." "Third, respect is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter who's around." The 3 nodded. "And fourth?" I smiled. "If you want to learn how to cook for real, I'll teach you." 6 months after that disastrous Christmas, I was standing in Emma's kitchen watching her season a chicken the way I'd taught her. Jake was beside her chopping vegetables, and David was preparing a salad that was actually edible. "Dad, is the chicken cooked to perfection?" Emma asked, full of pride. "Let me see." I tried it. "Perfect. You really learned." "It's because I had a very good teacher. It was the 3rd family dinner that month. Not because I was nagging them, or because they were trying to make it up to me. Because they wanted to be together. Because they finally understood what family is. Jake graduated from the basic cooking course and could now make at least 10 dishes without burning anything. David discovered he enjoyed cooking and was considering Italian cooking classes. Emma was still a danger in the kitchen, but she was trying. And best of all, they were paying it back. Not all of it, because $500,000 isn't paid off overnight. But every month, a bank transfer arrived with a small portion. It was the gesture that mattered. "Dad, can I say something?" Emma said, stirring the chicken in the pan. "Of course. I was thinking, wouldn't you like to meet some of my friends from work, but with my dad? Not as an employee? That's it. I want them to know the man who raised me. And are you sure you won't be ashamed of me?" She put down the spoon and looked me in the eyes. "Dad, I'm ashamed of the person I was 6 months ago. I'm proud of you." Jake laughed. "Dad, you should see how Emma talks about you at the office now. My dad this, my dad that. The guys must be fed up by now." "That's true," David confirmed. "She told everyone how you raised 2 children alone and still managed to give them both a university education." "And what did they say?" "That you must be a very special guy," Emma replied, "and that they would like to meet you." He smiled. "Then let's schedule it." December came again, and for the first time in years, I wasn't stressed about Christmas. Emma and Jake had taken on the responsibility of organizing the Christmas dinner, and I was just going to participate. "Dad, we were thinking of doing something different this year," Emma said during our weekly Sunday lunch. "Different how?" "We want you to teach us how to make those dishes that Grandma taught you. You know, the family tradition dishes." "Are you sure? These are complicated recipes." "We want to learn. Jake insisted. We want to keep the tradition alive. And we thought about inviting Aunt Rosa too, David suggested, so she could come spend Christmas here. That caught me off guard. Seriously? Of course. She's family. And besides, we want to get to know this side of our history better. It was incredible how things had changed. A year ago, my Latino background was a source of shame for them. Now it was something they wanted to celebrate. And there's one more thing, Emma said, becoming nervous again. What? We want you to live with us. Like this? Not all together, Jake explained quickly. But we were thinking about buying a bigger house, with a separate suite for you. A modern father-in-law's suite. David laughed. Independent, but connected. I was speechless for a moment. Why? Because we lost so many years away from you, Emma replied. And because you're getting older, and we want to be close to take care of you, just like you took care of us. And because we enjoy your company, Jake added. Who would have thought, right? I looked at the three of them, these adults who were once the children I raised, who grew up, got lost along the way, but found their way back home. Are you sure you want a stubborn old man bothering you every day? Dad, you're not old, Emma protested. You have experience. And he's not stubborn, Jake corrected. He's wise. And we're already used to being a pain in the neck, David finished, laughing. Okay then, but I'll pay my share of the house. Good. Don't argue. A real family shares responsibilities. That year's Christmas was everything the previous one should have been. Rosa came from Phoenix and fell in love with the new version of my children. Emma and Jake managed to make almost all the traditional family dishes, with my supervision, of course, but doing the hard work. Uncle Carlos, what a transformation, Rosa whispered to me, as we watched Emma explain to David how to make the empanada filling. Those kids have become real people. Yes, it was a tough lesson, but a necessary one. And you? How are you feeling? I looked around Emma's house, which was now being sold so they could buy the bigger house where we would all live. I looked at Jake trying to explain to his new girlfriend how to season the turkey. I looked at David, who had become more like a son to me in the last 6 months than a son-in-law in the last 5 years. I'm feeling complete. Complete how? It's like I finally have the family I've always wanted. During dinner, Emma stood up to make a toast. Guys, I wanted to say something. The table fell silent. A year ago, we almost lost the most important person in our lives due to sheer stupidity and ingratitude. Emma, I tried to interrupt her. No, Dad. Let me finish. She wiped her eyes. This year, I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about being present. It's about taking care of each other. Jake raised his glass as well. It's about recognizing when you're wrong and doing what it takes to fix it. David joined in the toast. It's about understanding that respect and love go hand in hand. Rosa laughed. It's about knowing that my brother was always a special man, and that you were very stupid for almost throwing that away. Everyone laughed, including Emma and Jake. And above all, Emma continued, it's about understanding that family traditions aren't obligations, they're privileges, and that we were lucky to have someone who preserved those traditions for so long, waiting for us to grow up enough to appreciate them. Blessings, they all shouted together. As we drank, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. Not because everything had gone back to normal, because we finally had something better than normal. We had a real family. Today, 2 years after that fateful Christmas, I'm sitting on the porch of our new house, watching Emma teach her 3-year-old daughter how to bake cookies. Little Sophia has more skill in the kitchen than her mother did at 25. Jake married the girlfriend he met during culinary school. They opened a small restaurant serving modern Latin comfort food, an homage to the recipes I learned from my mother and passed on to them. David put aside some of his plastic surgery plans to teach therapeutic cooking classes at a rehabilitation center. He discovered that cooking truly heals wounds that medicine can't reach. And me? I became the grandfather I always dreamed of being. Not only for Sophia, but for all the grandchildren who came after. Jake and Maria had twins last year. The house is always full of laughter, mess, and the smell of good food. But the most important lesson we all learned is that family is something you build every day. It's not automatic. It's not an acquired right. It's a commitment you renew with every Sunday lunch, every midweek phone call, every time you choose to be present in the lives of the people you love. Emma never lied to me again. Not even a little white lie. Jake pays his own bills and still manages to help people in need through the restaurant. David became the son-in-law I always wanted, a partner, not just my daughter's husband. Sometimes I receive messages from people who have heard our story in some way, parents who are going through similar situations, children who have realized that perhaps they are treating their own parents the way I was treated. To all of them, I say the same thing. Love has to be reciprocal. Family has to be a choice. And it's never too late to fix what's broken, as long as all parties are willing to do the work. The truth is that most of us, at some point in our lives, need to learn to set boundaries, even with family, especially with family, because it's easy to hurt those we love when we're sure they'll always forgive us. I almost lost my children for being too permissive. They almost lost me for being too arrogant. What saved us was the courage to face the truth, however painful it might be. Today, when I see Sophia trying to teach her younger cousin how to mix cake batter, I'm reminded that family traditions are passed down from generation to generation, but only when there is love, respect, and humility involved. If you're going through something similar to what I went through, know that you are not obligated to accept disrespect, not even from family. Set boundaries, demand reciprocity, and never, ever accept being treated as less than you are. But also know that forgiveness is possible. Rebuilding is possible, as long as it comes with a real change in behavior. The family I have today is much better than the one I had 3 years ago, because it's based on mutual choice, not obligation or guilt. And if you're a son or daughter who recognized some of your own behaviors in this story, it's not too late to change. Call your parents, say thank you, show them that they matter, because one day they won't be here anymore, and you won't want to carry the weight of regret. A true family is a treasure, but like any treasure, it needs to be cared for, nurtured, and valued every day. And remember, it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to be the family you were always meant to be. If this story touched you in any way, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And write in the comments, true family is a choice, because when we learn this lesson, everything changes. Family arrogance has an expiration date, but true love is eternal.